is Richard Tay. I am the lead ALJ for this hearing, and my co-panelists for this hearing are Judge Gast and Judge Aiken. Although I am conducting the hearing, we are co-equal decision makers in this case. And I believe we have both parties present, Ms. Pinkston representing the appellant and Mr. Smith representing Respondent Franchise Tax Board. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to the OTA. Just a little word about what the OTA is. It's an independent agency. We do not communicate either party unless the other party is present or included in the discussions. Because of our neutral position, we only have the exhibits and arguments provided by the parties on appeal. So if it was not in your briefs or in your exhibits submitted for this appeal, then we don't have it. Before we go on the record, I just want to review a few items about the hearing. So this hearing, it's a virtual hearing that we're conducting today via Webex in response to the COVID-19 state of emergency. The Office of Tax Appeals will be conducting today's hearing electronically with the agreement of all parties and participants. Today's proceedings will be live streamed and a certified shorthand reporter will also transcribe the oral hearing. Please remember to speak clearly and at a reasonable pace. The transcript and video recording are part of the public record and will be posted on our website. So during today's hearing, we just ask that you say your name each time before you speak for the benefit of the reporter and for the record. And when you're not speaking, please mute your microphone just to avoid feedback and background noise. And finally, please note that these proceedings are being broadcast live and any information shared during this hearing is publicly viewable. I don't see anyone else here on behalf of either party, so it'll just be Ms. Pinkston and Mr. Smith for respondent. In terms of witnesses, my understanding is that Ms. Pinkston will be testifying during her presentation on behalf of appellant. Is that correct, Ms. Pinkston?
That is correct.
Great. I'd also like to, oh, I'm sorry, and FTB has no witnesses. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
That is correct.
Great. I'd like to review the hearing binder briefly. After the pre-hearing conference, we received one timely exhibit from respondent. Adding that to the exhibits submitted with the briefs, I believe that means that respondents' exhibits are A through F. Are the exhibits contained in the hearing binder correct, Mr. Smith?
Yes, the exhibits are correct.
And Ms. Pinkston, do you have any objection to any of FTB's exhibits?
No.
Okay. The hearing binder also contained appellant's exhibits 1 through 11, and last week my office received an additional exhibit, Exhibit 12, that did not make it into the hearing binder. My apologies for that. FTB, do you have any objections to appellant's Exhibit 12? I believe you received a copy, but would you please confirm that for me?
Yeah, there was no issue with Exhibit 12. We received that a number of days ago.
Okay, I realize it's late, but I'm going to include it into the record. And so, Ms. Pinkston, your exhibits on behalf of the appellant's exhibits are exhibits 1 through 12. And are those exhibits correct in the hearing binder?
Yes, sir.
Great. All right. The issue we're going to discuss today is whether appellant is entitled to interest abatement for the 2004 tax year. Is that correct? Franchise Tax Board respondent?
Yes.
And Ms. Pinkston?
Yes.
Okay. We do have a court reporter today who will be transcribing our proceeding. Please be sure not to speak over one another and to speak clearly and at a moderate pace for our stenographer. Do we have any questions from either of the parties, appellant or respondent, before we go on the record?
I do have one question. You said to mute when I'm not speaking, and I'm not sure how to do that.
Sure. There should be a mute button at the very bottom of your window. Do you see that by chance?
I do. I just touched it. I'm afraid to touch anything, so I'm afraid I'm going to lose everybody. So I'm going to try it for 1 second, if that's okay.
Sure. We're more than happy to do a test run right now.
Thank you.
Great.
Something
looks like the mute button's working. Glad to see that things are going well so far. It's good. Any questions from my panelists before we go on the record? Okay, seeing a shaking of heads, no questions. So why don't we begin? Good morning again. We are opening the record in the appeal of Pinkston Productions, Inc. Before the Office of Tax Appeals, case number 1975078. The official location on the notice of hearing is Sacramento, California. This hearing is being held electronically. A panel of 3 judges is hearing this appeal, and we are co-equal decision makers. My name is Richard Tay, and I'll be acting as the lead judge for the purposes of conducting this hearing. Also on the panel with me today are judges Cheryl Aiken and Kenny Gast. Will the parties please introduce themselves for the record, beginning with the appellant, and please state any title that you would like to have as part of the record.
My name is Linda Pinkston, and I am the president of Pinkston Productions, Incorporated.
My name is Joel Smith. I'm a tax counsel with Respondent Franchise Tax Board.
Thank you very much. The issue today is whether appellant is entitled to interest abatement for the 2004 tax year. Prior to the hearing, we circulated the exhibit submitted by both parties in a file we call the hearing binder. It contains appellant's exhibits 1 through 11 and respondent's exhibits A through F. Appellant also submitted an exhibit, exhibit 12, which we will allow into submission into the record. There were no objections to these exhibits. Is that right, appellant?
That's correct.
And respondent?
Joel Smith, correct. No objections.
Thank you. The exhibits will now be admitted into evidence. We'll start with appellant's presentation, which includes testimony from Ms. Pinkston. You will have 15 minutes. I'd like to swear you in at this time. Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great. Thank you very much. Ms. Pinkston, please feel free to begin your presentation when you're ready. You will have 15 minutes.
Okay, and I apologize. I'm not good at speaking, so I've just kind of written it out. I'm going to read it if that's okay.
That would be perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay. Well, first, I'd like to thank you, Judge Tay, and the panel, and Mr. Smith for the franchise board for allowing me to be here today and plead my case. As you know, I'm here requesting a refund of interest paid associated with our 2004 state tax return. A quick history: Pinkston Productions Incorporated is an entertainment corporation which consists of 1 employee, an actor, and my son, Ryan Pinkston. We were incorporated in Maryland on February 12, 2004, with the right to work in California in July of 2004. So really, the year in question was only 6 months, as noted on Exhibit 3 on page 10. We proceeded as a corporation, and from 2004 to 2007, with our Maryland accountant filing on time our federal and Maryland state tax returns. Shortly after, we were notified that we were being audited by the IRS for that 2004 year. Simultaneously, at the advice of Ryan's people, his manager, agent, and lawyer, it was suggested that we obtain a California accountant, someone with the knowledge of the entertainment field that would allow us to reap the benefits and understand the process better in California. The new accountant began filing our past state taxes for California state, but informed me that we should not file 2004 until the audit was complete. Moving forward, I was in contact with the California Franchise Board consistently, and sometimes it became a little frustrating. If you could understand my notes on page 13 and 16, Exhibit 6, it shows that I was told different answers on different days to the same questions, or on many occasions, it would literally take me all to reach a representative just to be told that I was speaking to the wrong person. This was individual, not corporate line, or I need to speak to the holding department, not this department. On page 17, Exhibit 7, it shows I even tried sending a message to the California Franchise Board through the website under our account. This was a few years ago, and to this day, I've never received a response. Again, my main reason for these exhibits is to show that throughout the years, I was in constant contact with the Franchise Board and in good faith trying to clear our account with the goal of getting back into good standings. On page 18, Exhibit 7, it's an example that shows that I would send a letter to be very specific on whatever year apply it to. Otherwise, it would be credited to the oldest year, which a few times it was. I did this quite often and would pay 1 or 2 years off at a time after receiving a notice or reaching a representative for balances. The IRS audit was completed at the end of 2011. Immediately, the California return was prepared for 2004. Prior to the accountant doing so, I received an email, Exhibit 12, that explained to me, that was dated December 6, 2011, which explained to me and was quoted, "Luckily, you sourced all the income to Maryland, thus would file a California return that reflects this. Nothing sourced to California. You will pay the minimum tax plus penalties," unquote. The original California return was sent to me on 12/7/2011, Exhibit 7, page 2, and on page 6, Exhibit 2, on line 43, the tax owed to California was $2,751. Before it even reached me in Maryland, I received a call telling me to hold off on the return since another one was coming. Now please refer to page 8, Exhibit 2, line 43, that now states the new tax return that we owe $5,892. I'm not 100% sure what day this letter arrived, but I'm assuming it's close to the date that I mailed it to California on 12/22/11. It was filed by the California Franchise Board on 1/5/2012. Over the next few years, whenever a job was booked, I would pay what we could to clear our account. Although every year after 2004, there was only the minimum 800 tax due, historically, we paid many penalties, late fees, and interest on those years. And since we were not in good standing because of the past tax owed, all jobs booked through Ryan and loaned out through Pinkston Productions had a 7% withholding attached. Several times, our $800 minimum was paid through the withholding and not a personal check or web payment. This was always so hard to explain to a representative whenever I called for updates or balances. By 2017, the only back tax left was for 2004. Several payments were made, including a payment of $5,767 on page 19, Exhibit 8. This was paid on 5/22/2017, which represented the balance of the original tax due. On several occasions, I would inquire about the penalties and interest and fees charged, and was always told that we couldn't even entertain the thought of having them reduced until all was completely paid in full. In July 2017, I arranged an installment agreement, page 20, Exhibit 9, beginning August 2017. All monthly payments of $415 were made, a one-time payment, and the last payment of $474.58 was paid on 7/5/2018. Total payment for 2004 California tax, $13,981.84. You'll see that on page 21, Exhibit 10. On page 11, Exhibit 4, you will see that on 12/17/2018, I filed an application for certificate of reviver for Pinkston Productions. I confirmation on 1/11/2019 that we were back in good standings. On February 20th, 2019, I filed a Form 2924, page 23 and 24, Exhibit 11, requesting a refund of interest paid. Without any contact, more than 4 months later, on 6/29/19, I received a form letter stating that my statute of limitations expired 3 years earlier on 1/6/2016. You'll see page 22, Exhibit 11. I immediately called the number on the form. The lady, Janet, was not very kind and said it's a final letter and nothing could be done. She would not put me through to a supervisor, but it was too late because it was too late in the day, but assured me that somebody would call back. 20 days later, I'd never received a call. I called back again and I reached Joni. She was very helpful and suggested that I appeal, which brings us here today. So in closing, I just wanted to say that it's been a long, drawn-out process for all of us. I know I've made some mistakes along the way. So did my accountant in Maryland and California. So did the California Franchise Board. But I want to make clear that at no time were we ever trying to get over on the system, cheat, or not pay our fair share. Actually, as you will see on page 3 and 4, Exhibit 1, we filed our original Maryland taxes in 2005 on time and paid the state $3,979. By the time we filed California, the statute of limitations had closed and it was too late to recoup those funds. In summary, Pinkston Productions paid a total of $17,960.84 in state taxes for 2004. I would have much rather paid the $6,994 and called it a day. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Pinkston, for that presentation.
Thank you.
I want to give an opportunity for Franchise Tax Board to ask any questions of the witness testimony. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions?
Joel Smith? No, I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up to my panelists. Judge Aiken, do you have any questions for appellant?
Judge Aiken speaking. No questions at this time. Thank you.
And Judge Gast?
Thank you. This is Judge. Ms. Pinkston, I had a question about Exhibit 12 that you submitted. It seems to indicate that all of the income from was going to be sourced for the 2004 tax year to Maryland. Did you file a return sourcing all that income outside of California? Because the amended return, or I should just say the return we have in the record, seems to suggest there was income sourced to California and it wasn't just the $800 minimum tax.
We originally in 2005 filed Maryland 2004. My Maryland accountant did not know that we should be filing in California. Years later, my California accountant says we need to file. His email says to me right before, 2 days before he was getting ready to file the California tax, and I quoted, and that's what Exhibit 12 is, saying this is what's going to happen. Then he sent me one that said it looked like he sourced half of it to California, half to Maryland, and then the one that we finally filed, he sourced it all to California. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. I'll turn it back to Judge Ted.
Thank you, Judge Gast. I have no questions for appellant. So at this time, I'd like to give Franchise Tax Board the opportunity to make its presentation and closing statement. You'll have 10 minutes, Mr. Smith.
Joel Smith, thank you. As stated, the issue on appeal is whether appellant, as shown, is entitled to an abatement of interest under Revenue and Taxation Code section 19104. The relevant facts are not in dispute. Appellant filed its 2004 California tax return on January 5th, 2012. Appellant entered into an installment agreement to pay its balance, paid the balance in full on July 5th, 2018. Interest accrued on appellant's 2004 tax year from the tax due date, March 15, 2005, balance was paid. The tax is not paid by the due date, as was the case for appellant's 2004 tax year. Interest accrues on the balance until the balance is paid. Imposition of interest is mandatory, and respondent can only abate interest as authorized by law. As explained in the precedential appeal of Moy under section 19104, the Office of Tax Appeals has jurisdiction to determine if respondent's decision not to abate interest was an abuse of discretion. Section 19104 grants abatement of interest if appellant can establish interest accrued due to an unreasonable error or delay committed by respondent in performance of a managerial or ministerial act, provided no significant aspect of the delay is attributable to the taxpayer. Appellant has cited to Exhibit 7, page 1 as a potential example of an error or delay. This is a screenshot of an online message regarding the potential for an installment agreement that appellant sent to respondent on July 24, 2017 at 9 a.m. That being the message was sent at that time. In fact, respondent did respond to this message. Review of appellant's account indicates respondent talked to appellant's representative at 10 a.m. an hour later on that same day. I can provide a printout of that contemporaneous record if the panel would like. In addition, appellant's Exhibit 9, which appellant referenced in its argument, this is further evidence that respondent did respond to appellant's message. Exhibit 9 is an installment agreement acceptance, which was issued on July 28, 2007, 4 days after appellant's online message was sent. The appellant has not made any other allegation, and there is nothing in the record to suggest respondent made any error or delay throughout the processing of the 2004 tax year balance. Therefore, consistent with the law, it was not an abuse of discretion for respondent to deny appellant's request to abate interest. Based on statutory authority and the evidence in the record, respondent requests you sustain its position. I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'd like to turn to my panelists. Judge Aiken, do you have any question for respondent?
Judge Aiken speaking. No questions for respondent.
Thank you, Judge Aiken. And Judge Gast, any questions?
Thank you. This is Judge Gast. I do have a question. What is the basis of FTB's denial of the refund claim? Because in the opening brief, seems to be suggested that the refund claim was not timely filed. So it's a statute of limitations issue or interest abatement issue?
Now, Joel Smith, the initial appeal claim for refund referenced a $60 tax overpayment. And so that is what the reference to statute of limitations applies to. Throughout the course of this appeal, it is determined that request for an additional overpaid tax was not at issue. However, interest abatement and statute of limitations are separate issues, and if the panel were to determine that there was an abuse of discretion and reason to abate interest, that may, the statute of limitations may then apply.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Judge Gast. I have no additional questions for Franchise Tax Board. So at this time, I'd like to give appellant an opportunity to present her rebuttal and a closing statement. So Ms. Pinkston, you have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge Tate. Am I allowed to ask Mr. Smith a question?
No, that's not allowed. Because Mr. Smith is not testifying. He's not a witness, so you can just state your presentation to the panel.
Okay, I had it as a question, so I'm going to try to reform it. On Exhibit E on page 39 of California Franchise Board, it was suggested that I had filed an amended return, which I have never done. So I was a little confused about that. So I just wanted to make it clear. And in his exhibit, it was just a blank form. So I wanted to make clear that we have never, it was the 2934 form for a request for refund, not, I guess, 100X or something.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to make in your presentation to end your presentation?
No, sir. It just has been a learning experience. So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time today.
Okay. I will turn it over to my panelists one more time just to ask any remaining questions. Judge Aiken, any last questions before we conclude?
Judge Aiken speaking. No questions for either party. Thank you.
And Judge Gast?
This is Judge Gast. No further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your presentations. I'd like to keep the record open for another 15 days to allow Franchise Tax Board to submit the evidence of their response. And after that, we will close the record and the appeal will be submitted for decision. After the record is closed, we will endeavor to send our written decision no later than 100 days. The hearing is now adjourned and we've concluded. Thank you very much again, Mr. Smith and Ms. Pinkston.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.